Hey guys, welcome to day 7 of our 2019 digital launch. Today we're going to be taking a turn down Edison Avenue, or Tesla Turnpike. Electricity. We're talking about electricity. Today we're talking about electrical and PCB. Stay tuned. It's in the stars. Hasn't it always been? As far back as humans go, we've been looking up. Our drive to explore our universe has always pushed technology forward. The Canada-France-Hawaii telescope has been giving us clear glimpses into the cosmos for over 40 years. But technology changes a lot in 40 years. So when it's time for a redesign, you need a system that has performance, attention to detail, a full design ecosystem, and offers the latest innovations. Welcome to the 2019 Solidworks release, presented to you by CAD Dimensions.
Solidworks Electrical 2019 brings a whole new level of functions and improvements that will help users ensure better schematic documentation along with saving time. Let's take a look at the new settings, library changes, tools, and terminal representations. One of the first things we notice when opening Solidworks Electrical 2019 is that the user interface has seen improvements in the windows and icons. This facelift provides a clean and crisp look moving forward for the future. The new user interface meets the demand of improvements as more and more users are upgrading to 4K compatible monitors. After looking past the new icons, let's take a look at the new features available while designing. Inserting a new wire, cable, or manufacturer's part in the library, inside of the manufacturer parts manager, we now have the ability to display the dimension units. We can switch the dimensions between inches or millimeters. These units are automatically reflected in each of the parts' dimensions and the properties. This can help save time entering data, and we won't have to manually convert units while building our library. Need a quick schematic? A blank box has always come in handy to design a flexible symbol. However, the information that goes along with these black boxes have been slightly limited. We now have the ability to represent black box terminals using a new configuration parameter for specific connection points and attributes. This option can ensure that on-the-fly components represent accurate information from the start. Want an easy way to renumber components? Last year we were able to identify any skipped or deleted mark numbers when adding new components. This year, a new function in the Project Configuration Manager allows this to happen at the next level. We can now renumber component priority order from this dialog. There are times we may be required to show a cable right along with its core wires. We know that a mixed scheme accomplishes this, but what if we already designed a multi-line scheme? We can now combine our line diagrams together with our schematics by converting the type of drawing to a mixed scheme document. This can be found under the properties of a schematic in the drawing types pull-down. Need to switch 2 cable cores with ease? Well, now we can with the new Switch Cable Cores tool located in the shortcut menu of the Terminal Strip Editor. This new tool allows users to quickly fix a common mistake right from the manager with no need to go back to the schematic. Our next set of enhancements are my personal favorite because they came directly from a customer's request. New configuration and insertion have been introduced to improve the process and flexibility of inserting dynamic connectors in the schematic drawings. The connector configuration has expanded the parameters available with additional dimension options to help create the exact size and shape of the connector we desire. A few new choices we can see are to include corner radius value and pin side. The new pin side line allows us to easily choose from the following options: right, left, left and right, and also right and left. Also, with the new configuration option to display crosshair references, we can easily identify the further detail of each connector. New options in the insertion panel of connectors make it easy to turn on or off common variations to the same base symbol configurations. One of the new options shown is automatic zigzag. This feature helps indicate that additional pins of this connector will be placed elsewhere in our project. Wipeout frames, rounded corners, and the automatic zigzag can be individually controlled now for simple modifications within the dynamic connector insertion panel. Thanks to your feedback, these new options make it easier than ever to quickly define the exact connector symbol we need. Need a quick and effective way to insert macros? We can still drag and drop from the macro panel, but we can now also insert a macro just like we can insert a new symbol and use filters to identify the correct macro for the job. The new Insert Macro tool can be found in the Schematic and Line Diagram menus. Archiving projects might be the most important step in our process. New to 2019, we now have the option to include or exclude specific items from the project archive. Archive projects using the Archive Project Wizard can update reports to ensure we have the most up-to-date reports before we archive. Or even choosing 3D files, images, and shortcut data to be included in the archive. This will certainly help control the file size of our archives and make sure the correct data is being preserved. With these new features to SOLIDWORKS Electrical 2019, users can design schematics faster and add or edit details with ease. The user interface improvements make it easier than ever to navigate the software and complete your designs.
The Internet of Things, or IoT, is revolutionizing the future of all technology. Today, everyone is surrounded by the smart devices, and everything is connected to each other. We are not far from the world where all the devices will be able to speak to each other using the Internet. In order to get to this future, one thing is necessary for these devices, and that is the printed circuit board. SolidWorks PCB helps us design such products efficiently by collaborating between the mechanical and electrical departments. PCB 2019 has come up with great enhancements, making the design process faster and efficient. Defining the assembly constraints for placing a PCB in its enclosure is a crucial element of PCB design. SolidWorks has developed a process for creation of placement barrier or keep-out area, including the z-axis data to limit height. For example, you can add a surface restriction using the component envelope, and this will be reflected back on the PCB as marked in the color red, and the affected components are also highlighted in red for not passing the collision design rules. Thus, you can easily place a board in tight enclosure. Components can be easily flipped inside SolidWorks by using the PCB add-in menu from the right mouse button options to flip component. Selected components on your board are moved to the bottom layer, and that is applied to the connector in both SolidWorks and in PCB design. And notice that when it does flip to the other side of the board, we can see that our board has a thickness consistent with the number of layers detailed by the PCB designer. PCB will report the copper and connections can be made. You can further lock the component positions by simply hitting Fix or Float option in SolidWorks CAD and push your changes to eCAD team. PCB designer is notified about these changes and can modify the design with the new constraints. This reduces the number of iterations between the two teams, which can be a huge time saver in creating a better design. If you recall, in the past versions, we would need to treat each hole as an individual sketch and individual cut extrude. Now, with PCB 2019, SolidWorks supports multi-contour hole sketches, or creating holes through Hole Wizard. For example, connector pin holes are defined and organized in the design tree as compared to the older versions, thus creating a parametric design. Another great enhancement this year is the support for solid model copper and decals. We used to be able to get trace entities by exporting a parasolid file, but they were static and we would lose the link between the PCB software. This new setting for solid model copper can be turned on or off, and the feature gets listed in the tree. This can be used for both visualization and also for simulation of heat flow through the board. With PCB 2019, you can view decals for component outlines on the silk screen, which lets you visualize the board in detail. Generating drawings using PCB software has now been enhanced by Solidworks Drawings capabilities. These details of our PCB assembly and fabrication information can be exported through DXF or DWG export. We can quickly add dimensions for components that will help identify the proper placement of parts during assembly. Some additional enhancements for user experience have also been added in 2019. You can now sort and search project list in SolidWorks CAD to access that specific project you're looking for. Also, searching for parts in a project is made easier and quicker than before by adding the capability to search using a reference designator that was generated in PCB. You can type in the reference designator in the top bar to find the component easily. For example, you can locate your hiding resistor by just searching for keyword R1. Finally, let's have a look at how SolidWorks PCB fits into the entire SolidWorks ecosystem. In this example, we will use the flow simulation tool to calculate the heat and airflow patterns of our board assembly. This will help us validate that our board is laid out in an efficient manner. Component locations can be modified depending on the thermal analysis, and air vents or gaps can be added accordingly. With these great enhancements, PCB 2019 can help you achieve a seamless collaboration between the two departments and make quicker decisions to improve your electromechanical design.
All right, Jesse. So all of that was a completely different language to me because I stay very far away from electrical PCB. Anything that's got electricity, I stay away from.
Invisible can kill you.
Yeah, invisible can kill you. Yeah. So is there anything that you can point out and make it English for our viewers?
Well, it's actually ironic that I mentioned wiring in my visualized portion because I too have no idea what's going on there. But I will say that I kind of mentioned it before that communication is kind of key. I think we were talking about the PDM section, and a lot of those enhancements are aimed towards making things more clear and also integrating better with other groups, which I think is definitely a huge benefit. Anytime you can avoid any kind of inconsistencies or mismatch of information, that's great. And a lot of those enhancements this year are geared towards that.
Perfect. Awesome. So tomorrow we're going to be discussing assemblies, and there are some super awesome enhancements there. So stay tuned for tomorrow.